Alright, so we're going to go ahead and continue inking in with the next layer of purples. And I'm going to start with the darker one. And first ink in this inside border. I'm also going to ink in this outer border here with this dark purple as well. I'll go ahead and transition over to the lighter purple and ink in that lined or hatched internal border. So I'll transition over to these oranges and the yellow, and I'm going to start with that lighter orange. And ink in these muka shapes. In the Zentangle world, this pattern here is called muka. It has sort of like a nice stem with a bulb at the end, and it's quite curvy and organic looking. It's one of my favorite Zentangle patterns to draw. So we'll ink in all of these mukas, both the larger ones first and then the smaller ones along the outside, using this lighter orange. Next, I'm going to ink in these little petal shapes here using yellow. finally, with this orange and yellow layer, I'm going to use that dark orange to ink in all of the interstices. So interstices are all of those spaces in between. So everything that's in between those muka shapes and that little petal shape that I had already inked in, all those in between spaces are going to be inked in with this dark orange. It creates sort of like a background, nice shadow in the back. I debated a little bit as to if I wanted the background to be the dark orange or if I wanted it to be a brighter color, but I really did want it to look like it was darker, more of a shadow, and receding into the background. So I chose the darker color, but you might want to swap them and try the brighter color in the interstices and the darker color in the muka shapes, just to see, what's the effect if you do it somewhat differently. Next we have our pinks, and I'm going to start with the lighter one. And I'm going to ink in the inside of these petal shapes. At this point, every once in a while will transition over to using just a regular fine tip Sharpie rather than the ultra fine to color in these wider spaces. But what I found was this particular color, I didn't have a matching fine, so I stuck with coloring these petals in using the ultra fine marker. But feel free as you color in to use the thicker fine tip markers to color in these like larger spaces. One thing I do like about using these ultra fines, however, even when you're inking in larger spaces like this, is you can really take your time and enjoy the process of laying down ink on your paper. As you can see here, I move kind of slow, especially when I'm doing the back and forth strokes to fill in the space. And this makes my drawing more of a meditative practice rather than a let's hurry up and get this done. I can really slow down and enjoy watching the ink spread around on the paper. So I hope you can sort of take your time and enjoy this inking in process as well. So here I'll go ahead and ink in those outside borders with that darker pink. And like I was talking about earlier, I transitioned here to using a fine tip rather than an ultra fine. Sometimes in these tighter borders that might not be a great idea, but I really wanted to give it a go and see if the ink spread a little bit faster when I use these fine tip markers. So finally, we're on to our last layer, the greens. And of course, I'll start with the lighter green first. And again, I'm using the fine tip rather than ultra fine now because I'm coloring in some larger spaces. And I'm going to color in this inside portion of this leaf shape using the lighter green. Finally, we're onto our very last ink, and we're going to ink in this darker greenish bluish color right on the outside border of these leaf shapes. So thank you for joining me for this round of inking in our mandala. We still have a few more rounds to go following the pattern of purple, orange, pinks, and then greens before we get this mandala finished, but I love seeing it come together layer by layer. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.